tried to stay out a bit of the whole Sargon Anita business because mostly it's just pointless drama, and people who point at it and say, you know, she's irrelevant now, all you're doing is making her relevant again. Well, they kind of have a point, but it isn't really something that can be ignored. But I want to talk about it in the kind of broader context of what happened with Vidcon for people. You know, I'm just a tiddler in what you might call the skeptic community. I think we need to get over this avoidance of the word community. It doesn't have to mean as much as some people who don't like the term seem to think it means. It just means, you know, people living in the same area, essentially. So if you're a skeptic, even if you don't get on with other skeptics, then you're part of the skeptic community. Yeah, and so it goes for all of these things. But I've watched all these people who've come together at Vidcon, which is probably the unlikeliest of places for this to happen, and have come away energized and enthusiastic and looking forward to the future. I mean, I've exchanged a few words with Mundane Matt, and he seems really sort of pumped and enthusiastic for what's to come. And it's been the same with a lot of other people that are involved in what you might call the skeptic community or the anti-social justice warrior community. Which is a bit of a misnomer, I think, because I don't think anyone's particularly anti-social justice in the proper sense of the word. It's just these extremes and the tactics that people tend to be against. Anyway, it's been nice to see everyone come away enthused, and in a lot of cases we seem to have seen people humanising each other. Now, from my perspective, I don't think that has particularly been much of a problem on the anti-side, I guess, my side, whatever you want to call it. Language is clumsy. I think people on my side have always seen the opposite side as human, and have always tried to reach out for debate and interaction, and it's never really been reciprocated up until now, but that seems to be changing. You look at the way Lacey has interacted with people. You look at the way Francesca Ramsey moved to interact with people. You look at the way people like H. Bomber Guy and so on met up with and talked with people like Sjw and Skeptic and the others, and there's a definite thaw in relations between the two camps. We may actually finally get to a point of being able to talk to each other, and I hope I can get in on some of that somewhere, because I think I have some good insights. But it remains to be seen. I'll be happy just watching other people manage to do it anyway. But yeah, that's good. That's a hopeful, good thing, isn't it? I'm sure that there's some curmudgeons on both sides that see things differently. There's people who are suspicious and have been made cynical by everything that's happened before. But overall, we're seeing people talk to each other. We're seeing a new enthusiasm, a new willingness to talk, and a new sense of community. And all of that is good, I think. And that's what brings us in a kind of roundabout way to the whole Sargon Anita situation, which could not be more contrasted with everything else that's going on. Where others seem to have shifted and moved and become willing to debate and talk and try to understand each other, Sarkeesian's doubled down and made things worse for herself in a lot of ways. I mean, from her pulpit she was harassing Sargon, at least harassment in the sense that she means it, in the sense in which these kind of convention bylaws, whatever you want to call them, anti-harassment policies, by those definitions she was harassing him, but nothing was done. Yeah, that's a concern. It's worth underlining, it's worth pointing out. If you think Sargon is being sincere when he's talking about feeling harassed or emotionally hurt, whatever, I've got a bridge to sell you. But that doesn't mean that it's not useful to underscore this hypocrisy, to underscore this double standard, to make it more obvious. I mean, the risk when you Alinsky Rule 4 in this way, holding people to their own standards, the risk in that is that you also seem like a hypocrite. But that's kind of dependent on the whole power dynamic here, and Anita's side thinks she's the one lacking the power, whereas from his point of view, from our point of view, he's the one lacking the power in this situation. And you've got people talking about taking out restraining orders and whatever, but they were really, honestly, just there to listen. It's not just Sargon saying that, it's Matt, it's Jeff Holiday, it's the other people involved, and they all sing from the same hymn sheet, and frankly I don't have any particular reason to disbelieve any of them. I trust a lot of these people. I like Matt's work. He's established from the way that he works, I think, that he is trustworthy. Jeff Holiday is a sound geezer who I'd love to buy a drink for one day. I have a sense of trust for these people. I'm not saying I know them really, but having watched them and listened to them and seen how they conduct themselves and so on, I have no reason to disbelieve them whatsoever when they say that they were just there to listen. But then you look at the way she conducted herself in the question session there. This is one of the few opportunities that Anita has had to interact with people, to talk with them, to discuss, to take questions. And what does she do? She brushes them off and sends them away. Even if some of these people have reputations as pranksters or tricksters or whatever, the questions were valid, but she didn't address any of them. So at a time when everyone else is opening up, opening dialogues, creating a sense of each other's humanity, Anita has gone entirely the other way. So I find it very hard to have any sympathy whatsoever for her in this situation. And to me, it just cements the idea that she is disingenuous, that she is not the genuine article, that she's not actually interested in the ideas. She's a preacher. She's not someone who's there to discuss or persuade you of her points. She's there to project and tell you what's what, and not to brook any disagreement or whatever. So even if she is genuine, which I'm less convinced of now, she's not there for genuine discussion and talks. And the contrast could not be stronger. I think Sargon's pushing it too far. God knows I've got my issues with Sargon myself, but I don't think he's deliberately malicious in this way. I mean, he's criticised her. Plenty of people have criticised her. She basically broad brushed the whole crowd that was there. But these are critics. It's especially ironic given she insists that what she does is criticism, when she's often calling for things to be banned or controlled or whatever else. And yet she addresses her critics and brushes them all off in that way. So what's interesting to me is this whole double standard, the contrast between what Anita was doing and what other people have been doing. And I agree with Matt in that this seems to be some sort of turning point in these two debating communities, and an opportunity for people to actually talk and address each other's points. Why would debunkings of Anita's videos change when she never addresses her criticism, never advances her arguments? I make the comparison all the time with creationists. I mean, you can still use resources from the 90s, from Usenet, to debunk creationist arguments, because ironically creationist arguments never fucking evolve. So it's the same with Anita. I guess at the end of the day, I feel enthused by the way other people have felt infused and enthused by Vidcon. I've got a contact high off watching everyone be so hyped and pumped after meeting each other and meeting the opposition and opening lines of communication. I feel good about that. I want to see more of that. And this from a suicidal depressive and a cynic who came up with the saying, pessimists can only ever have a nice surprise. You make of all this what you will, but I'm hopeful. I am genuinely hopeful that we can get somewhere, and if Anita doesn't want to come along for that ride, well then fuck her. Our efforts can be put to better use elsewhere, so let's do that. Zang.